Captain Vactor's log stardate 100116.45. It's with a heavy heart that I record this final captain's log for the first voyage of the USS TREKnological. We've reached the end of Strange New Worlds' first season, and we will be taking a hiatus after today's mission. I'm looking forward to discussing A Quality of Mercy with Captain Shoff and seeing what he will be up to during his shore leave. Oh yeah, we are back on TREKnological, your Star Trek Shakedown. I'm Captain Vactor, and I'm with the only captain who could possibly tackle Pike's Peak, Captain Shoff. How you doing, Shoff?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was trying to do my best Captain Vactor there. Oh yeah.
Right now, Shoff was peeking with his hair.
my hair was peeking into the camera, and it's getting pretty vertical, folks. It's getting pretty vertical. By the time we come back after our podcast hiatus, who knows how high this hair will go?
This is where I wish we were doing a video podcast. So you lovely listeners,
when we come back, we will be a video podcast.
Snap. Well, keep doing what you're doing, Shoff. I want to show all the listeners out there what Shoff's peak looks like. But thank you very much, speaking of the listeners, for supporting us, listening to us all season, and sticking with us, because we've got some great stuff on the way. Like I said, we're going to be talking about A Quality of Mercy today, episode 10 of Strange New Worlds' first season. But after today, we're going to be going on a little bitty hiatus, and then we're going to be coming back and bringing some more Trek stuff to your earbuds and also your ear holes. I'd like to let everybody know you can always leave us a wonderful review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to tell all your Trek-loving friends and family that TREKnological is here, because without your support, we would be nothing. Let's get right into it, Shoff. Set a course for the nearest planet, maximum warp.
Aye, sir. Course laid in.
Give me that Szechuan sauce. Captain Shoff, use your rainbow bridge and meet me in the transporter room, where we'll beam down to the planet's surface to search for some Trek news.
Aye, sir. Bye, Frosty. On my way.
To the beam down. All right, let's scan this planet's surface for any sign of some Trek news.
Ooh. I found some Trek news, Captain Vactor.
That's what I'm talking about, Shoff. Let's see, what kinds of stories did you find?
Well, Captain Vactor, I found so many stories that there's not even remotely enough time to talk about them. This past week has been a Star Trek news explosion, if you will.
Smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord, if you will. Yeah, there's so much news. So I'm going to go through these headlines kind of quick, but one thing is for sure, all these will be available in the show notes. Clickable links makes it real easy for you.
Nice.
We found out that Lower Decks Season 3 is going to visit some major Star Trek planets. Yeah. We also found out whether or not Scotty is going to appear in Season 2 of Strange New Worlds. Star Trek Prodigy has been so successful on Paramount Plus that it's going to release on Nickelodeon this summer.
Nice.
Syndication, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
We got some information, and this is a story I didn't even know about, but apparently there's been like 3 chief engineers during like the first season of Next Generation, and one of them lost his job because of some really weird behavior. And that's just a tease. So you're going to want to check the show notes for that because it's a great story and really well worth your time. Also, the captain of Star Trek Discovery, Michael Burnham, played by Sonequa Martin something or other. I forget her full name. Anyways, she responded to criticism that apparently Discovery is not considered real Star Trek.
What?
And honestly, there is fandom that doesn't feel like Discovery feels like Star Trek. I am not part of that fandom. I love Discovery. I think it's a great show. And every season, it's only gotten better and better. I think the reason why people feel like it's not Star Trek is because of a story element that I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it for people, but just know that it is in fact Star Trek. It just maybe doesn't feel that way for a very specific reason that I can't say. But anyways, check out that article because that's pretty interesting. This next article is about Strange New Worlds and how it sets up the Spock and Bones situation. So there's a line in the previous episode, All Those Who Wander, where Sam Kirk is like, you green-blooded person. He says that to Spock, and that's a line that Bones would always say to Spock. So it's sort of like initiating how Spock is going to be sort of just not hated, but like is going to be at the angst of someone. So yeah. Also, there's information about how the Star Trek saga has blazed new trails for space exploration, and with a hand from apparent superfan Jeff Bezos, of all people, who laughs like this. That's how he laughs. Apparently, there's no music in the future. Star Trek is seemingly devoid of music. Now, granted, we've seen music from time to time and we hear it, but it's like instrumental stuff that's not necessarily something that they listen to. And when you think about it, there are a lot of episodes where you don't hear anybody listening to music at all. So, kind of a unique element to Star Trek. Maybe something to dig into deeper on a future episode. But there's an article there waiting for you. You can get a chance to listen to the 1966 radio commercial for a new TV show called Star Trek. So that's a nice dip into the past. This was when they were teasing Star Trek, the original series. Nice. And so that's pretty cool. Some information about the upcoming video game Star Trek Resurgence and how it blends dialogue and action in a very, very Telltale style game. Oh. And I know that Captain Vactor enjoys those Telltale style games. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Also, we got to watch this really, really cool 64-bit version of the DS9 intro. Yes. Someone put together, and it is glorious. It's amazing. And it looks like as if you were watching DS9 on your Nintendo 64. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Also, one thing happening right now on social media, specifically on Star Trek's social media, Instagram, they're doing the Summer of Sweet Revenge, and it's a villain showdown. And so they've got villains from across all of the Star Trek shows. And I'm not going to name them all, but it includes the Borg Queen. It's got Gul Dukat from DS9. It's got Q. It's got the Gorn captain that Kirk faced off against. And ultimately, it's whoever is going to end up going off against Khan, Noonien Singh. So trying to determine who is going to be the strongest adversary. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this past week they had Badgie from Lower Decks against the Gorn captain, and I'm not sure. I can't use my phone to check it because I'm currently using it for Zoom. But I know that they were facing off this week, and I don't know if they have a result yet. But if you're interested and want to kind of follow along on this funny tournament that they're doing over the summer, make sure that you're following Star Trek on various social media, and you'll see they have like brackets and everything. It plays off like a March Madness thing. It's really fun. So it's pretty cool. And I think that does it, Captain Vactor.
Excellent, Shoff. Some great Trek news that you can find in our show notes. But let's get down to business, Shoff. And before we do, just want to let everybody know, throw up a red alert. Spoilers, there be plenty. We're going to be spoiling the final episode of Season 1, A Quality of Mercy, right now. So In the season 1 finale, just as Captain Pike thinks he's figured out how to escape his fate, he's visited by his future self, who shows him the consequences of his actions. This episode was written by Henry Alonso Myers and Akiva Goldsman, and directed by Chris Fisher. So, Shoff, it's like I said in my captain's log, it's a heavy heart because I was excited that this was the last episode, but I was also sad that this was the last episode because that means no more Strange New Worlds. But
oh man, that's so bittersweet. So bittersweet.
What did you think about A Quality of Mercy?
So this episode is, first of all, great. I loved it. From start to finish, there's so much to enjoy about this episode. We already talked about, spoilers aplenty from here on to follow. But real quick, you talked about who it was co-written by. Those two people are the co-showrunners of this show. So that is how you know you're getting the intended vision of the show overall in the finale. So that's great. I think that's a perfect way to guarantee that your vision remains consistent. Is you've got your showrunners writing the script too. So that was awesome. But overall, this was a great episode. This is definitely in my top 5 episodes of the season.
Yeah.
It's not my number 1 episode, but that's only because there were a couple other ones that were just dynamite. So it's kind of hard to mess with it. But I would say if I didn't rank it in my top 3, I might have to readjust it because I think it's definitely top 3. It's an excellent episode. It does a wonderful job of walking a very, very fine line. I'm talking a straight up tightrope of canon, but also finding a way. And this is what the show does so amazingly well: is they find a way to respect what came before and not tread on it in a negative way, but supplement it and make it even better. Yeah. It's amazing. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a show that was sort of boxed in like this is and do it this well. Because they're so limited in the fact that they take place before the events of TOS, before the events of any of this stuff. So it should limit them from a narrative perspective, but it doesn't. It actually just enhances things, as we see in this episode, because they take the events of a previous episode of TOS and flip it on its head in an amazing way. So I'm talking about Balance of Terror, which at the time of me watching the episode, I didn't remember the exact episode, but there was a part of me that was like, this is very familiar. I said to myself, I was like, what's happening in this episode feels like I've seen this before. And I couldn't place it, but I was like, I need to, as soon as this episode is over, I'm looking it up, because this feels like a mission that actually happened on the original series. And sure enough, it's exactly what it was, but played out in an alternate future timeline in which both captains were alive at the time. So my thoughts are, I loved it. What about you, Vector?
I was the same. This is the way that you can enter my heart. If you have a time travel story, an alternate reality story, a sci-fi story, like all of these elements that are in this make up what I love. As you know, Shoff, Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. And it's that, all right, your future self comes back to warn the past self, and you might change the future and all these things. I love that type of storytelling. So getting it inside of this episode, I didn't know what to expect because I didn't watch the preview for the next week's. I never do. But when I saw it and I found out what was going on, I said, this is my jam, Shoff. This is right up my alley. So I also loved it. I don't think it was my favorite episode of the season. I believe All Those Who Wander is still my favorite. The Gorn alien predator thing episode, like that was my favorite, just because it was like a horror movie and it was defying my expectations, but just so well done. But looking back over the season, I loved every episode. Like every episode was interesting.
Yeah.
Every episode had some type of character development, some type of interesting twist on it. and you get to know all the characters. Although we still never got our episode with now I'm blanking on her
Ortegas.
name. Ortegas. We still never got the Ortegas episode, but I really enjoyed all of the character growth, all of the elements, and in particular, the fact that this episode dealt with the Pike and the importance of Spock in these, the cosmic balance of things, and then kind of the sacrifice of Pike and just the continual. Every week we talk about how great Pike is. This just continues to build him up for me as, man, he's gunning Shoff for my favorite captain of all time role. Very close, but I'm going to need a few more seasons under his belt before I can say that. But definitely off to a great start. And just this season as a whole was just fantastic.
Yeah. This show is so good this early, which is not normal. Most shows are not this good this quickly. Especially in a first season, usually the show needs time to sort of like stand on its own legs,
right?
For you to embrace characters, and maybe the fact that they're playing characters that we technically have already seen and known, even though it's maybe new actors playing them. I think that maybe does it a service, because we are more easily attuned and sort of like joining this team. Like we don't have to learn a whole lot of new names because we kind of already know these names, just in a historical way. But this show is so good right out of the gate that I don't see this thing ending anytime soon. I mean, we already have season 2 in the books. They've finished production on it. Who knows how soon we'll get to watch it? I would imagine they might do maybe in like the next 6 months. That seems like a possibility. Right. I don't think they'll wait a full year to release it, considering it's already done. I think they want to probably keep the fire burning right now. So that's going to be part of it. What's interesting is we don't really know when the next Star Trek series is going to debut. We know that Lower Decks season 3 is the next one to likely come out, but they still don't have a date yet. But I will say this. We just got word that they're going to be at Comic-Con later this month. I think July 22nd or something like that is the date of it. But they'll be at one of the halls and providing like a panel. So you can bet that they're going to be showcasing the timeline of the upcoming projects that are going to be released. And I would not be surprised if we get a release date for Lower Decks as well as other things on that particular day.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait.
Gosh, but this episode, the events of it, for the most part, take place 7 years in the future. So I would not be surprised if this show went 7 seasons.
Ooh.
And they treated a season like a year. Because to me, I think the likely conclusion for Strange New Worlds has got to be Pike's demise. I mean, and that's the saddest part about this, but also the most cool and the most interesting is that up until this point, up until this episode, we were all like, well, maybe they are going to find a way to save Pike. Maybe he is going to escape his own fate, and we're going to get maybe like a alternate timeline or something like that. But no, he's realizing just how important it is that he stays the course, that his death means something, because without it, Spock doesn't survive, and that sets off a cataclysmic thing. We've got a whole Romulan war as a result. Just craziness. So it cements his future as he's not going to try to change it. He's gonna do what he needs to do to make sure it turns out the same. So that to me means that how else do you end this without showing that? So I think that's got to be like the final episode of season 7 or something like that. To me, that seems the most likely.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think that will be the conclusion. But like I said, this was everything that I wanted it to be and everything that's right up my alley. Now, I would say the only thing that I was a little bit hesitant on was the James T. Kirk casting. Paul Wesley.
Yeah.
And, it's no slight against the actor, Sure, he's a great guy, but Kirk, he is not. Like there is something about when you portray Kirk, you have to. Now, obviously, Shatner immortalized it. Like he laid the grounds, but even when Chris Pine came in and they had the Kelvin, the J.J. Abrams timeline, that was also something where his charisma made me love him and like cemented him. And I just got to say, this Paul Wesley, he just did not have that. Now he had a limited role, but he just didn't have that same charisma that I want out of a Kirk. So that was my only gripe with this episode.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I wrote the same note. I said around the 19-minute mark, there's an interaction between Pike and Kirk. And real quick, I'm going to go ahead and play that.
Enterprise, this is Captain James T. Kirk of the USS Farragut, offering assistance.
So, I mean, they have this interaction, but I wrote down my next note was, so far, not loving Kirk. I said he's too serious and he has zero charm. And I read an article, and I think we talked about this a little bit on Discord, but he didn't feel the need to play Kirk in a traditional sense, the way that we would expect him to be, which is bold and asserting and charismatic and a rule breaker, a rebel, like does things his own way. We got a slight glimpse of doing things his own way and being a bit stubborn in that regard, but he was not charismatic. He was very stoic, very serious. And he said that he basically, not only does he not want to do an impression of William Shatner or Chris Pine or really capture any of that, he wants to do his own thing. But this is also a Kirk that nobody's ever seen before. This is a Kirk that exists in the same timeline as Pike, and shouldn't, because Pike should be dead by now. Where Kirk would have already developed friendships with Spock and whoever else is on the bridge of the Enterprise in the events of TOS, because clearly those on the bridge of TOS those on the bridge of the Enterprise at the time of this episode don't line up 100% with how it appears in Balance of Terror. So we know how those events play out. We know how Kirk would have reacted with the Romulans, and so he's basically playing a Kirk that we've never seen before, and that is a justification for why Kirk doesn't feel right to us. So I'm willing to accept that, but if when he appears on season 2 and he's legitimately younger Kirk, 7 years younger, maybe he's serving on the Farragut, maybe he like serves on the Enterprise in some cadet capacity or something like that. If we see him and he's still that way, then I have real problems. If he's back to being like that boyish charm, to being like the ladies' man and the out of the box thinker, then I'm okay with it. But right now, as it sits, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Paul Wesley as Kirk. That's a problem for me.
Hopefully, we can get season 2. But again, I think we talked about this on a previous mission or previous episode. What's the point in bringing in his brother if they're just going to bring him in? I feel like it undermines the casting of his brother, because I thought when they first brought him in, he's going to be the Kirk on this season or on this show, and we're not going to get James T. Kirk until either the last season or because we want to distance ourselves from him. But bringing him in already, and they said in the Ready Room, which was a really good episode, they talked about how this was the plan from the beginning, was to bring in Kirk on the very last episode of the season. So I don't know what their overall plans are, but even it was funny, that interaction that Spock had where Captain, like I was like that as the viewer, because I'm like, okay, Pike is my captain on this show, but wait a minute, there's Kirk. Kirk is my captain from, just nostalgia and knowing Star Trek. So it was like, I got these two captains. And on this type of show, I don't know if that's a great thing. Like, why do we want to have Kirk on here? Because it feels like he's just taking away the spotlight from Pike, and this should be Pike's show. That's my opinion. But
well, and here's the other thing too is, I think that this episode helped prove that Pike and Kirk really can't coexist. There's a reason why they don't, is because if Kirk is at full charisma capacity, Pike is already super charismatic.
Right.
Like, every episode of TREKnological since we started reviewing Strange New Worlds, we've had a serious man crush on Anson Mount and his portrayal of Captain Pike, and he's easily climbing the ranks as the best captain in Star Trek. So it's going to be really hard to stand up next to Anson Mount's portrayal of Captain Pike, even if you are playing Kirk, because then you're standing on the shoulders of others who have really done a great job too. So I don't envy Paul Wesley's position. He's in a really tough spot because there's a lot of eyes on him and expectations of him, and I think that's going to be hard to meet. But then again, Anson Mount is killing it. So, and there were certainly already 2 portrayals of Captain Pike previous to him, Bruce Greenwood, and I forget who played him on TOS, but he's making it his own, and he's great. So Paul Wesley is going to have to step it up in this season too, and hopefully he channels some of Kirk's personality traits from what we've known. Otherwise, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
he's going to be he's going to be a weak point for me otherwise. So,
and shout out to two friends of the podcast. One of my friends actually sent me a message, and he said it felt like Pike was having to deal with the dad next door who wants to tell you how to use the grill at your own barbecue. That made me laugh. And then also shout out to friend of the show, Frank Ramblings, who was a guest on a previous mission. He actually pointed out that both these captains, Pike and Kirk, both of these actors were on Smallville. And that was something I had forgotten. I didn't know who they were at that time, but he showed me screenshots of both of the captains in their younger years. It was kind of funny. So if anybody's a Smallville fan, this was a little Easter egg for you.
That's awesome. By the way, shout out to Frank Ramblings, who just had a kid.
Yes.
Just had a baby girl. So
yes.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Frank.
We hope that everything's going smoothly, and when things quiet down and kind of fall into a nice rhythm, we can have you back on the podcast.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, I had so many notes to write down, but we definitely don't have enough time for me to go through all of them. I thought it was interesting that we got so little of La'an, even though she was also on the Farragut. Like, there wasn't much for her to do in that regard. So I thought that it was strange. We only saw her briefly when they were beaming up people after the Farragut was destroyed. Like, so that was really, really super minor. I loved Uhura in the classic TOS style outfit. She had that, like, the perfect neckline thing happening.
Yes,
so
everything but the beehive.
Everything but the beehive. Spock had his more standard haircut as well, much more of, like, very, like, cut evenly as if it was done by, like, that little, like, vacuum haircut thing you can do for yourself.
You know what was funny about him? On the Ready Room, there was one interview where they were cutting away to him, and he had his eyebrows, like, shaved. Like, half of his eyebrows were shaved. And I was like, is he just walking around? I thought, they just put makeup on over his eyebrows. But it was like, is he walking around, like, outside of the show with his eyebrows like that? And then they cut to him later on the Ready Room when they're actually there, when Will Wheaton goes to Toronto and goes to the new set for season 2, and he's got his full eyebrows. So I was like, oh, what is going on here? But I just thought that was weird when I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, if you were getting paid that kind of money, I'm sure you'd do whatever you had to
with
your eyebrows.
Yes.
They were like, shave them off. You're like, how soon? How soon do you need me to shave them off? You mean to dye them? I don't care. I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Even down to the Spock eyebrow that happens when they first reveal the look of the Romulans, and the rest of the crew realizes that the Romulans look like the Vulcans because they are an offshoot of Vulcans. I mean, obviously, to all of us, we all know what the Romulans look like. So that's the dramatic irony there. But the other funny part is how much of those scenes and how much of the dialogue from those scenes is lifted directly from the TOS episode Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
Down to the eyebrow, like down to the blocking of the scene, down to the camera angles, down to the script. It was so brilliant. And it happens multiple times throughout this episode. And it's so amazing to me how this show is able to respect that source material so well.
I thought that was fantastic.
That was really, really great. For those that do know or don't know, in the original series episode, Balance of Terror, the main Romulan captain, I think he's technically considered a sub-commander. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, he is played by Mark Leonard, who is known as Spock's father, actually, as well, because he also played Sarek in the original series, as well as the films, as well as appearances in TNG. So it's ironic that when Sarek appears on the view screen in Balance of Terror as a Romulan, and they all look to Spock like, hey, he kind of looks like you. And then for him to appear later in TOS as Spock's dad, playing a Vulcan, I was like, this is kind of ironic. So, they're just like reinforcing this idea. Man, all Vulcans look alike. So, let's see. What else do I have? Oh, the voice of Scotty. We get the voice of Scotty in this episode. Mm-hmm. We don't see him. And according to the showrunners during interviews, they said that we're not going to get Scotty second season. We're going to get a different chief engineer. And also that Bruce Horak is going to be coming back on the show in a different capacity. So
I saw that.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Rest in power, Hemmer.
Yes, we miss you so much. That was one thing as well. I thought, I mean, granted, a lot of this episode takes place in an alternate future, so there really wasn't like the space to properly mourn Hemmer. But the episodic aspect of the show sort of prevents that carryover in some degree. So we did miss a little bit of that next episode's "We Miss You, Hemmer" type thing. It really wasn't space for it, so that was kind of difficult. At first I was like, where the heck is Nurse Chapel? We haven't seen her once in this episode, and then she doesn't appear until she's by Spock's bedside after the events that have gone down between the Romulans and the Enterprise and the Farragut, and Spock is dead, totally burnt to a crisp. And so then we see her, and that made sense to me. But at first I was like, man, she has a day off? What's going on here? So then we find out that basically anytime Pike attempts to change the future, Spock dies in every single version of that. So we're realizing that the implications of Pike trying to save himself has repercussions for others, the people that he loves. And there's just a brilliant and super beautiful moment between Pike and Spock, and it happens around the 58-minute mark, and I was going to play it briefly for us here.
Having heard the boy's name, I cannot help but wonder if this pertains to your future.
Let's just say I think the universe is telling me that some fates are inescapable. And even if I could get out of mine, it might just fall to someone else.
Someone you know?
Yes.
Is that why you are very glad to see me? I believe I may owe you a debt of gratitude, Captain. Although for precisely what, I do not know.
Spock, you are very important to me.
As are you to me, Captain. Chris.
And the two of them, they play this so beautifully, so raw. Spock doesn't even know what Pike is getting at, but he sort of recognizes that there's something going on here, and the importance of it is there. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that scene.
Well, number one, it got a little dusty in the room. I don't know what was happening. There was like dust particles. Something got in my eye for a second. And
Damn you, allergies.
I had sent you a video of me reacting, and then you turned that into a TikTok. So
yes, I did.
For those who don't know, we do have a TikTok. TREKnological is now on the TikToks.
That's right. Search for TREKnopod.
So I thought that was kind of funny when you did that. But yeah, that was definitely a genuine reaction from me. I wasn't expecting that much emotion to come out of it. But like you said, just a beautiful moment between those two. And we're so early in this show, and the cast is already gelling. You're already feeling for them. And it's what's crazy is, like I said, that connection between Spock and the two Captain. I almost feel like there's a pull between them because we have so much history with Kirk and Spock, but now I want to see Pike and Spock. Like, that is the success of this show, that I want these characters to actually have more time together, even though I love the Kirk and Spock relationship and I have years of that experience. But now in these past couple of months that we've had Strange New Worlds, they've won me over. And it's like, I want to see more with these two characters together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. I totally agree with you. It would be great. I kind of wish that this show decided to become the alternate and just have him be alive, just so we could explore that future.
I was thinking about that too.
But the downside is, of course, we don't get Spock. So that sucks. But I don't want to say goodbye to Pike. Like, I know that we're going to have to, but I don't want to. And I know that you're not caught up on Discovery, but season 2, we get our first introduction to Pike. And right from the get-go, I already there was something about him. There was something about the portrayal that I really loved. And I was like, man, I hope we get more Pike. And then they announced Strange New Worlds was going to be a thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I'm jealous of you because you're kind of getting it in a backwards way. So for me, I was introduced sort of the expected way of you see Pike in the timeline with Discovery, and then there we go. And then we don't see him again until Strange New Worlds, and he's sort of reeling from what happened to him during the events of Discovery season 2. And it factors in so heavily in and sort of informs his storylines and his struggle, his character development. But for you got a glimpse of that, and now you're just seeing him as a captain without seeing what came before. So I'm really interested when you do get a chance to get to those episodes. I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts on that. So I can't wait for that moment when you're caught up with at least season 2 of Discovery. I can tell you for certain he's not in season 3 or 4 of Discovery, but there's reasons for that, and I don't want to get into spoiler territory on that. Although you may know. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's not caught up. So.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah, man, Shoff, I cannot wait for season 2. And on that Ready Room, they were talking about kind of the plot, the plot threads that they left dangling and the cliffhangers, and you talked about it with La'an, and I want to see what's going to happen with number 1 and all these things. They set it up beautifully to tease us with that carrot and make sure that to leave us wanting more. So great job on this finale, and can't wait for season 2 of Strange New Worlds. And,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the fact that number 1 got arrested at the end of the episode for being an Illyrian. First of all, we kind of all saw that coming. It was going to happen. There's no way that Starfleet wasn't going to get word of this. I mean, she wrote a log in her thing. Like, she implicated herself. And I wrote down, she got arrested. I said, best news all week. Good riddance. Good riddance. I hope she's off the entire season of next season. I hope they don't rescue her or get her name cleared until the end of season 2, because she is easily the worst part of season 1. I thought it was interesting after watching Balance of Terror, which technically is episode 14 of season 1 of the original series. It's not if you go through Paramount Plus, but Paramount Plus I think might have the order incorrect on how the episodes debuted. But anyways, search for Balance of Terror if you want to watch it. But Ortegas basically is almost reciting line for line lines that the character of Lieutenant Stiles who's on the bridge of the Enterprise in the original series of being sort of anti-Romulan, being ready to take him out, being very war hungry in that regard, looking for retribution, looking for revenge. So Ortegas fulfills that role. She's basically Styles. I thought it was really amazing with their dialogue. And if you have the time, watch Balance of Terror after watching A Quality of Mercy, because it's only going to make you appreciate it more when you see how things were reframed and done in a way that's very respectful of TOS while making it new. So I thought it was great.
Nice.
You were talking about Ready Room, which actually does a really great job of showing a lot of split screen moments between Strange New Worlds and original series Balance of Terror. So that was really, really cool. And they talked a little bit about Paul Wesley and that his version is not the Kirk we've known or seen. So, man, fingers crossed. If his Kirk is not up to par, he's gonna really damage season 2 for me. So, because I know he's gonna factor in more heavily to season 2.
Yeah.
Now, Vactor, I told you earlier that I wanted you to rank the season. So, we didn't do this with Picard, I don't think, but I think it's easier to do with this show versus Picard, because Picard was more, it's a serialized arc, so everything sort of served a purpose, whereas this show, everything was sort of independent for the most part. So you said that All Those Who Wander has got to be your top one,
yes.
right?
Yes.
I'm in agreement. I actually put that one as my number one. But let's go from the number 10 slot down to, we know our number ones are the same. We know All Those Who Wander is our number one episode of the season. But let's start from the worst. And I shouldn't say worst. I should say least best. The least best episode of Strange New Worlds, because they were all really good. What would you say?
And I like so many of them, but I would probably say Ghosts of Illyria is my number 10.
That's my number 10 as well. Yep. Same there.
And maybe it's the number one, the amount of screen time number one has on that one. That might lead to a little bit of it.
I think you might be onto something. Yeah. All right, let's go number 9.
The episode of, man,
I know it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I'm going to go Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach.
That's what I have for number 9.
Yeah, man, it's like I said, there is no episode that I didn't like, really, but it's just the ones I liked less than
Yeah.
the other ones.
Yeah, that's the one where the kid gets sacrificed and he gets it on with the former flame and everything. So we see the Pike maneuver in full effect. In that one.
Yes.
What's your number 8?
Okay, number 8. Man, I'm going to go Strange New Worlds, and that was the premiere.
Okay. I had a different one, but Strange New Worlds is very close. I put Spock Amok as my number 8. I know it was billed as a comedy episode, but to me it didn't really land. It certainly wasn't as funny as some of the other ones that followed it that weren't billed as comedy episodes. So that's kind of how I felt with that. But the body swapping to me, I didn't love it. But yeah, so Spock Amok is my number 8. Number 7 for me is Strange New Worlds. So
Okay.
what's your number 7?
I'm going to go Memento Mori.
Really? Wow. That's the first appearance of the Gorn.
Yes.
They're getting chased into the gas cloud nebula thing outside of the black hole, basically.
Yeah. I would say, if they didn't, like I said, if All Those Who Wander was not an episode, then I probably would have put Memento Mori a little bit higher. But because we don't even really see them, we see them like in the first person view, but not like we do in All Those Who Wander. I think that changed the order for me a little bit.
Okay. Very well. I mean, you're wrong. But number 6, I have the Elysian Kingdom.
Yeah, I'll go.
That's the storybook episode.
Yes. And man, I like that one a lot. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go Children of the Comet.
Okay.
Below, yeah. Because I really like that storybook episode.
Children of the Comet's really good. I really enjoyed that one too. And the storybook episode I really liked because you got to see the actors really sort of change it up in a big way. Yeah. At least most of them. And
right.
Pike in a big way for sure. Hemmer got loose. Even Spock was having fun with it, and and Uhura was really fun too. So that was number 6. Number 5, I put down the Serene Squall. That's the pirate episode.
Okay, I'm gonna go Spock Amok, and I liked it.
Okay.
As our ranking shows, I liked it more than you did. I laughed more than you did on that one.
Okay, number 4, I put down Children of the Comet. I know you put that one a little bit lower on the list.
Yeah.
What's your number 4?
I'll go Serene Squall on that one.
Okay. And so we're just pretty close on that.
Yeah. Like I said, I like all of these episodes, but
yeah. Okay, so now we're in the top 3, and I said, the top of the episode, I said that I thought that the season finale was in the top 3, and that is how I ranked it. So I'm glad that I've been consistent all day on my rankings, but I put Quality of Mercy as my number 3 episode of the season.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go. Which one have I not said? Quality of Mercy is number 2 for me. So there's one. Which one did I leave out? I left off one episode.
All Those Who Wander.
Okay.
But we already said that was our number 1.
Yeah, that's number 1. We're on number 3, right? I'm getting lost on the numbering.
Yeah, we're on number 3.
Okay.
We've talked about Ghosts of Illyria, Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach, Spock Amok, Strange New Worlds, The Elysian Kingdom, Serene Squall, Children of the Comet, and then we're on Quality of Mercy.
Okay. Yeah,
you already mentioned Memento Mori as well.
Yes. Man.
Maybe you haven't mentioned Elysian Kingdom.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll put Elysium Kingdom number 3. Yes.
Okay. So then for my number 2, because I think the 2 Gorn episodes are the strongest, I put Memento Mori as number 2. And then number 1, as we said, All Those Who Wander. And for you, I'm guessing you put Quality of Mercy at number 2?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Because of, like I said, time travel, like alternate reality, all those things are right up my alley.
Nice. Well, I think that for the most part, our rankings were pretty close. I mean, there's a little bit of varying here and there, but I think if I reapproach this list, like say tomorrow or even next week, they might fluctuate a little bit in the middle. I feel like the middle episodes probably are so close that they might flip-flop. So, but I think overall we're pretty consistent with the top 3 and about the bottom 3 pretty much. So I think that's pretty good because we're definitely 2 individuals with different varying backgrounds on Star Trek, and we still pretty much came up with the same thing. So that tells you that we know our stuff.
Yeah. All right. So I think, Shoff, that's going to wrap us up here. We're running a little bit long, but I wanted to hear...
It's the last episode. We can do that.
What's been going on in your life this week, Shoff?
This past week was my daughter's 2nd birthday. She was born on the 4th of July. So we made sure the city did fireworks for her. But it was great. It was really awesome. The difference between celebrating a 1-year-old's birthday and celebrating a 2-year-old's birthday, I was talking about this with my wife. It's such a difference because they really understand it's their birthday. They understand that there's celebration involved. They get the idea of cake and blowing out candles. They get the idea of presents. Like, it's a different thing. And of course they're talking too. So like they're in communication. It was funny. My daughter, Emily, didn't even want cake. Like we put the cake in front of her. We asked her if she wanted a slice. She didn't want it. I was like, well then I'm happily going to eat your slice of cake. But there was a bit of a scenario, with the fact that her birthday is on the 4th of July. The cool part is she gets to have fireworks every time for her birthday. The sucky part is she gets to have fireworks for her birthday. That no matter what, every night of her birthday, there's going to be fireworks around 9 p.m. And, you know, for anybody who doesn't have children, they won't really get this because, yes, hearing fireworks go off as an adult, you know it's going to happen. Your body's a little bit conditioned for it. So it's not so weird when the fireworks are happening late at night. That's normal, right? It's nighttime. That's when they do fireworks. So you can see them in the night sky, blah, blah, blah. But when you have children, as a parent, as a father, your number one goal is to make sure they sleep throughout the night. Like if they don't sleep throughout the night, then you don't get to have any relaxation time and you don't get to sleep throughout the night. So and ultimately, I mean, all those things aside, what the kid needs is sleep. Like they need sleep, even if they're going to be sticklers and be, you know, a stick in the mud about it. So when you get your child to sleep and then someone is shooting off fireworks late at night next door to you in the street in front of your house, and your daughter is in the room with the window facing out to the street, you get a little bit pissed off. And that's what happened to me because our neighbors, and for lack of a better word, I'm going to say it. It's not a bad word, but it is a word to describe a certain kind of person. My white trash neighbors were shooting off fireworks at 10 p.m. on 4th of July evening. Now, the fireworks display for the city ended at 9:30. So they had their own fireworks they were doing in the street, which, by the way, it's illegal to do it here in Colorado. You're not supposed to do it. You get fined, okay? But they were doing it anyway. And the cops don't care. There's literally 3 cops living in our neighborhood, and nobody came by to do anything about it. But I went out there, and this family. I've had it with them. I've had it with them so much over the past year and a half. They've been nothing but nasty, nothing but a thorn in our sides.
Dang.
And of course, these are the same people that are going to do this stuff with fireworks late at night. I go out there, I'm like, can you please stop? I was like, it is 10 p.m. I have a 2-month-old. I have a 2-year-old. It is her birthday today. They're both sleeping. It would be great if they would stay asleep. But the only way that's going to happen is if you guys stop shooting off fireworks right now. And I don't think that's too much to ask at 10 p.m. that you guys would stop doing fireworks. You're one family in a huge neighborhood of families. What makes you think that you deserve to do this while others don't sleep? Like, give me a break. I'm gonna cuss them. I'm not gonna cuss though, because this is a family-friendly podcast. But I was so mad, and there were certain things that were said back and forth. And the lady said, "Take the stick out of your butt," is what she told me. This is the mom in front of her 8-year-old kid, in front of her 5-year-old kid. She was saying, "Take the stick out of your a-hole."
Wow.
And it got progressively more heated from there. And I eventually went inside and I called the cops. Took them an hour to get to the person's house. They were still shooting them off at 11 p.m. The cop comes over, sees them shooting off the fireworks, and says, "Hey, can you guys stop? I'm just going to give you guys a warning, but can you please stop?" And they're like, "But is it okay if we shoot off a few more? We still have a few more left." And the guy's like, "I just warned you." Actually, no, I'm sorry. What he said originally was, he called me on the phone. He's like, "They just have a couple more. They'll be done really soon." I'm like, hold on a second here. Are you telling me that you, as the cop, are going to allow them to continue to do fireworks at 11 p.m. after I've already been waiting an hour for you to get them to stop because my children are sleeping? And you're saying that them finishing what they spent their money on for an illegal activity, it ranks higher than whether or not my children stay asleep? I was like, is that what you're basically telling me? Because that's what's happening here. And he was like, "I understand what you're saying. I get it. I'm really sorry. They're almost done." I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I was like, you're no help to me. So they do stop. They stop their fireworks at that point. They did not continue, thank goodness. But it was the principle of the matter. It just proves how much I hate this town. Windsor, Colorado, absolutely sucks a butt, and we cannot wait to move. That's why this podcast is going on hiatus, because we are moving to Washington. As of technically, this house gets packed up next week. Moving truck arrives. All of our stuff is going to be in basically like a storage as it moves from here to Washington. We'll be living with a friend for a couple of weeks until we fly out, and that's that. But anyways, that was my 4th of July fireworks with white trash neighbors story.
Dang.
Very long-winded. I'm so sorry, but it is our final episode of this season, so you got to do what you got to do.
Man,
what about you, Vactor?
Well, sorry to hear that, Shoff. This week
That's all right.
for me was a Thor week. Not only did I watch Thor: Love and Thunder, the new Thor movie, but all week I've been posting TikToks, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels of Thor characters. So
man, your thumbs must be Thor.
they are low-key very Thor. So that's what I've been doing. If you follow me, just my last name, @Vactor on Instagram, and you can find me on YouTube, I think, by searching Vactor or Jedi Vactor. And then on TikTok, I am Vactor Loves Comics. So you can find all the Thor stuff that I've been posting and some other stuff throughout the week. I've been trying to post news and character profiles on my TikTok and other short form media.
You're doing a great job with that, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And anyone else who follows, I appreciate that as well. Hopefully, maybe I can do some Trek content in comics as well coming up.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. That'd be a great way to tag into TREKnopod on TikTok as well. We can kind of get some more eyeballs on that, because we're only just scratching the surface on TikTok for TREKnological, but we definitely want to make that a much bigger thing going forward. After the hiatus, we're going to be moving into a lot more video content. So
Nice. Yeah, so again, starting next week, friends, the USS TREKnological is going to be returning to space dock as it undergoes a refit and repairs. During this extended shore leave, Captain Shoff, as he stated, will be relocating to the state of Washington. But once all relocation efforts are complete, the USS TREKnological will continue its ongoing mission with weekly Star Trek news and reviews. You can catch Captain Vactor, myself, on We Love Comics, our comic book podcast on the Geek So to Speak podcast network, as well as the Sandbox Gamers each week. That is our video game podcast. And especially during the hiatus, we'd love for you to give us a listen on those two podcasts, as well as we have our Geek So to Speak podcast, which is our geek news podcast, currently on hiatus, but all of the back episodes are still there. So if you like, you can go listen to all of the, how many years, Shoff? 5 years?
Yeah, basically. I think we started in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, 5 years. And it was in July, so it is officially 5 years when we kicked it off. And
snap.
200 episodes are available to enjoy. It's
nice.
crazy.
So you can check that out wherever podcasts are found. You can find the Geek So to Speak podcast, as well as all of our stuff over at geeksotospeak.com and geeksotospeak.com/network. That's our podcast network. For this podcast you're listening to, TREKnological, you can find us at TREKnopod on Instagram, on Twitter, and now on TikTok. So check that out, my friends, as well as, like I said at the top of the show, you can always leave us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And your friends and family who love Star Trek, don't forget to tell them that Vactor and Shoff are here to give you a Star Trek shakedown. All right, Shoff, I think our mission is complete. Vactor and Shoff here, to beam up.
Live long and prosper.